Can't be true, a thing like that. Some of the old books he brings me, the works of Master Francois. Somebody's supposed to be a priest about a child born out of her ear because her bum gut fell out. A nice word for any priest to write, and her a e, as if any fool wouldn't know what that meant. I hate that pretending of all things with that old blackguard's face on him. Anybody can see it's not true. And that ruby and fair tyrants, he brought me that twice, I remember, when I came to page 5. Oh, the part about where she hangs him up out of a hook with a cord flageolet. Sure, there's nothing for a woman in all that invention made up about he drinking the champagne out of her slipper after the ball was over, like the infant Jesus in the crib at Inchicore in the Blessed Virgin's arms. Sure, no woman could have a child that big taken out of her, and I thought at first it came out of her side because how she could go to the chamber when she wanted to, and she a rich lady, of course, she felt honored. HRH, he was in Gibraltar the year I was born. I bet he found lilies there too when he planted the tree. He planted more than that in his time. He might have planted me too if he'd come a bit sooner. Then I wouldn't be here as I am. He ought to chuck that Freeman with the paltry few shillings he knocks out of it and go into an office or something where he'd get the regular pay, or a bank where they could put him up on a throne to count the money all day. Of course he prefers plottering about the house so you can't stir with him any side. What's your program today? I wish he'd even smoke a pipe like the father to get the smell of a man, or pretending to be mooching about for advertisements when he could have been in Mr. Cuff's. Still, only for what he did then sending me to try and patch it up, I could have got him promoted there to be the manager. He gave me a great marauder once or twice. First, he was as stiff as the mischief really and truly Miss Bloom, only I felt rotten simply with the old rubbishy dress that I lost the leads out of the tails with no cut in it, but they're coming into fashion again. I bought it simply to please him. I knew it was no good. By the Finnish pity, I changed my mind of going to Todd's and Bum's, as I said, and not Lee's. It was just like the shop itself, rummage sale of a lot of trash. I hate those rich shops, gets on your nerves. Nothing kills me altogether, only he thinks he knows a great lot about women's dress and cooking, mathering everything he can scour off the shelves into it. If I went by his advices, every blessed hat I put on, does that suit me? Yes. That's all right. The one like a wedding cake standing up miles off my head, he said, suited me. Or the dish cover one coming down on my backside on pins and needles about the shop girl in the place in Grafton Street. I had the misfortune to bring him into, and she, as insolent as ever she could be, with her smirk, saying I'm afraid we're giving too much trouble, that she's there for... But I stared out of it with her eyes. He was awfully stiff, and no wonder, but he changed the second time. He looked poldly pig-headed as usual, like the soup, but I could see him looking very hard at my chest when he stood up to come open the door for me. It was nice of him to show me out in any case. I'm extremely sorry, Miss Bloom. Believe me, without making it too marked the first time, after him being insulted, and me being supposed to be with his wife. I just half smiled. I know my chest was out that way at the door when he said I'm extremely sorry, and I'm sure you were. Yes, I think he made them a bit firmer, sucking them like that. So long he made me thirsty. Titties, he calls them. I had to laugh. Yes, this one anyhow. Stiff the nipples gets for the least thing. I'll get him to keep that up, and I'll take those eggs, beaten up with Marcella, fatten them out for him. What are all those veins and things curious the way it's made? Too the same in case of twins. They're supposed to represent beauty placed up there like those statues in the museum. One of them pretending to hide it with her hands. Are they so beautiful, of course, compared with what a man looks like with his 2 bags full? And if his other thing hanging down out of him or sticking up at you like a hat rack, no wonder they hide it with a cabbage leaf. That's disgusting. Cameron Highlander, behind the meat market, or that other wretch with the red head behind the tree where the statue of the fish used to be, when I was passing, pretending he was pissing, standing out for me to see it with his baby clothes up to one side. The Queen's Own, they were a nice lot. It's well the Surreys relieved them. They're always trying to show it out to you every time. Nearly I passed out the men's greenhouse near the Harcourt Street station, just to try some fellow or some other trying to catch my eye, as if I was one of the 7 wonders of the world. Oh, and the stink of those rotten places, the night coming home with Paldy after the Comerford's party, oranges and lemonade to make you feel nice and watery. I went into R of them. It was so biting cold I couldn't keep it when that was 93 the canal was frozen. Yes, it was a few months after a pity a couple of the Camerons weren't there to see me squatting in the men's place, meet-a-row. I tried to draw a picture of it before I tore it up like a sausage or something. I wonder, they're not afraid going about of getting a kick or a bang of something. There the woman is beauty, of course, that's admitted. When he says I could pose for a picture naked to some rich fellow in the Hollis street, then he lost the job in Hellas and I was selling the clothes and strumming in the coffee palace. Would I be like that bath of the nymphs with my hair down? Yes, only she's younger, or I'm a little like that dirty bitch in that Spanish photo he has. Nymphs used. They go about like that, I asked him. About her, and that word meant something with hoses in it. And he came out with some jawbreakers about the incarnation. He never can explain a thing simply, the way a body can understand. Then he goes and burns the bottom out of the pan, all for his kidney. This one, not so much, there's the mark of his teeth. Still, where he tried to bite the nipple, I had to scream out. Aren't they fearful trying to hurt you? I had a great breast of milk with Millie, enough for two. What was that reason of that? He said. I could have got a pound a week as a wet nurse. All swelled out the morning, that delicate-looking student that stopped in number 28 with Citron's Penrose nearly caught me washing through the window. I snapped up the towel to my face. That was his studenting. Hurt me, they used to weaning her till they got Dr. Brady to give me the belladonna prescription. I had to get him to suck them. They were so hard, he said, it was sweeter and thicker than cows. When he wanted to milk me into the tea, well, he's beyond everything I declare somebody ought to put him in the budget. If I could only remember the one half of the things and write a book out of it, the works of Master Poldy, yes. And it's so much smoother, the skin, much an hour he was at them, I'm sure by the clock, like some kind of a big infant. I had it me, they want everything in their mouth, all the pleasure those men get out of a woman. I feel his mouth, oh Lord, I must stretch myself, I wished he was there, or somebody to let myself go with, and come again like that I feel all fire inside me. Or if I could dream it, when he made me spin the second time, tickling me behind with his finger. I was coming for about 5 minutes with my legs round him. I had to hug him after. Oh Lord, I wanted to shout out all sorts of things. Fuck or shit or anything at all, not to look ugly or those lines from The Strain. Who knows the way he'd take it if you want to feel your way with a man? They're not all like him, thank God. Some of them don't want you to be so nice about it. I noticed the contrast he does it, and doesn't talk. I gave my eyes that look with my hair a bit loose from the tumbling and my tongue between my lips up to him, the savage brute. Thursday, Friday, 1 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 3, oh Lord, I can't wait till Monday. Free Frong train, somewhere whistling the strength those engines have in them like big giants and the water rolling all over and out of them on all sides, like the ends of love's old sweet song. The poor men that have to be out all night from their wives and families in those roasting engines, stifling it was today. I'm glad I burned the half of those old Freemans and photo bits, leaving things like that lying about. He's getting very careless and threw the rest of him up in the WC 111. Get him to cut them tomorrow for me instead of having them sit there for the next year to get a few pence for them. Have him asking where's last January's paper and all those old overcoats I bundled out of the hall, making the place hotter than it is. That rain was lovely and refreshing just after my beauty sleep. I thought it was going to be like Gibraltar. My goodness, the heat there before the Levanter came on black as night, and the glare of the rocks standing up in it like the big giant compared with their 3-rock mountain they think is so great with the red sentries. Here and there the poplars, and they all white hot, and the smell of the rainwater and those tanks watching the sun all the time weltering down on you. Faded all that lovely frock. Father's friend, Mrs. Stanhope, sent me from the B March Paris. What a shame, my dearest Doggerina, she wrote. On it, she was very nice. What's this? Her other name was just a PC to tell you I sent the little present. Have just a jolly warm bath and feel a very clean dog. Now enjoyed it, Wogger, she called him. Wogger would give anything to be back in Gib and hear you singing, waiting, and Old Madrid Concone is the name of those exercisers. He bought me one of those new. Some word I couldn't make out, shawls amusing things, but tear for the least things, still they're lovely. I don't think you will always think of the lovely teas we had together, scrumptious currant scones and raspberry wafers. I adore well now. Dearest Doggerina, be sure and write soon. Kind. She left out regards to your father, also, Captain Grove. With love, yours affectionately, Hester, XXXXX. She didn't look a bit married, just like a girl he was, years older than her Wogger. He was awfully fond of me when he held down the wire with his foot for me to step over the bullfight at La Linea. When that matador Gomez was given the bull's ear these clothes we have to wear, whoever invented them expecting you to walk up Killiney Hill. Then, for example, at the picnic, all stazed up, you can't do a blessed thing in them in a crowd, run or jump out of the way. That's why I was afraid when that other ferocious old bull began to charge the banderilleros with the sashes and then the 2 things in their hats and the brutes of men shouting Bravo Toro. Sure, the women were as bad in their nice white mantillas, ripping all the whole insides of those poor horses. I never heard of such a thing in all my life. Yes, he used to break his heart at me, taking off the dog barking in Bell Lane, poor brute. And it's sick. What became of them? I ever suppose they're dead long ago. The two of them. It's like all through a mist makes you feel so old. I made the scones, of course. I had everything all to myself. Then a girl, Hester. We used to compare our hair. Mine was thicker than hers. She showed me how to settle it in the back. When I put it up, and what's this else? How to make a knot on a thread. And with the one hand, we were like cousins. What age was I then, the night of the storm? I slept in her bed. She had her arms round me. Then we were fighting in the morning with the pillow. What fun he was, watching me, whenever he got an opportunity at the band of the Alameda Esplanada. When I was with Father and Captain Grove, I looked up at the church first, and then at the windows. Then, down, and our eyes met. I felt something go through me like all needles. My eyes were dancing. I remember after, when I looked at myself in the glass, hardly recognized myself. The change. He was attractive to a girl in spite of his being a little bald, intelligent-looking, disappointed, and gay at the same time. He was like Thomas in the shadow of Ashley Diet. I had a splendid skin from the sun, and from the excitement like a rose I didn't get a wink of sleep. It wouldn't have been nice on account of her, but I could have stopped it in time. She gave me the Moonstone to read. That was the first I read of Wilkie Collins' East Lynne. I read, and the shadow of Ashley Diat. Miss Henry Wood, Henry Dunbar, by that other woman. I lent him afterwards with Mulvey's photo in it. So, as ye see, I wasn't without, and Lord Lytton Eugene Aram Molly. Balm she gave me by Miss Hungerford. On account of the name, I don't like books with a Molly in them. Like that one he brought me about the one from Flanders. A whore always shoplifting anything she could cloth and stuff and yards of it. Oh, this blanket is too heavy on me. That's better I haven't even one decent nightdress. This thing gets all rolled up under me, besides him and his fooling. That's better I used to be weltering then in the heat my shift, drenched with the sweat stuck in the cheeks of my bottom on the chair. When I stood up, they were so fattish and firm. When I got on the sofa cushions to see with my clothes up and the bugs, ton of them at night, and the mosquito nets, I couldn't read a line. Lord, how long ago? It seems a century, of course. They never came back, and she didn't put her address right on it, either. She may have noticed her Wagger people were always going away, and I remember that day, with the waves and the boats with their high heads rocking and the smell of ship. Those officers' uniforms on shore leave make me seasick. He didn't say anything. He was very serious. I had the high button boots on and my skirt was blowing. She kissed me 6 or 7 times. Didn't I cry? Yes, I believe I did, or near it. My lips were teetering when I said goodbye. She had a gorgeous wrap of some special kind of a blue color on her for the voyage, made very peculiarly to one side, and it was extremely pretty. It got as dull as the devil after they went. I was almost planning to run away mad out of it. Somewhere. We're never easy, where we are, father or aunt or marriage, waiting, always waiting to guide him too. Me, waiting nor speed, his flying feet, their damn guns bursting and booming all over the shop, especially the Queen's birthday, and throwing everything down in all directions. If you didn't open the windows when General Ulysses Grant, whoever he was, or did suppose to be, some great fellow, landed off the ship, and old Sprague, the consul that was there from before the flood, dressed up, poor man, and he in mourning for the sun, then the same, old bugles for reveal in the morning, and drums rolling, and unfortunate poor devils of soldiers walking about with mess tins, smelling the place more than the old long-bearded Jews and their jelly bees. And levities, assembly, and sound clear, and gunfire for the men to cross the lines, and the warden marching with his keys to lock the gates, and the bagpipes, and only Captain Groves and Father talking about Rorke's Drift, and Plevna and Sir Garnet Wolseley, and Gordon at Khartoum, lighting their pipes for them every time. They went out drunken old devil with his grog on the window-sill. Catch him leaving any of it, picking his nose, trying to think of some other dirty story to tell. Up in a corner, but he never forgot himself when I was there, sending me out of the room on some blind excuse, paying his compliments, the Bushmills whiskey talking, of course, but he'd do the same to the next woman that came along, I suppose. He died of galloping drinks ages ago. The days, like years, not a letter from a living soul, except the odd few I posted to myself with bits of paper in them. So bored sometimes, I could fight with my nails, listening to that old Arab with the one eye. And as hias of an instrument, singing his hia, hia, ahia, all my compliments on your hotchpotch of your hias, and as bad as now with the hands hanging off me, looking out the window if there was a nice fellow even in the opposite house, that medical in Hollis Street. The nurse was after when I put on my glove and hat at the window to show I was going out. Not a notion what I meant, aren't they thick, they never understand. But you say, even, you'd want to print it up on a big poster for them. Not even if you shake hands twice with the left, he didn't recognize me either when I half frowned at him outside Westland Row Chapel. Where does their great intelligence come in, I'd like to know. Gray matter they have, all in their tail if you ask me, those country gougers up in the city arms. Intelligence, they had a damn sight less than the bulls and cows. They were selling the meat in the Coleman's Bell, that noisy bugger, trying to swindle me with the wrong bill. He took out of his hat what a pair of paws and pots and pans and kettles to mend any broken bottles. For a man today, and no visitors or post ever except his checks or some advertisement like that. Wonder worker. They send him addressed, Dear Madame, only his letter and the card from Millie this morning. See, she wrote a letter to him. Who did I get the last letter from? Oh, Miss Dwin now. What possessed her to write from Canada after so many years to know the recipe I had for Pisto Maggiolino? Chloe Dillon since, she wrote to say she was married to a very rich architect. If I'm to believe all I hear with a villa and 8 rooms. Her father was an awfully nice man. He was near 70, always good-humored. Well now, Miss Tweedy or Miss Gillespie, there's the piano. That was a solid silver coffee service. He had 2 on the mahogany sideboard. Then dying so far away, I hate people that always have their poor story to tell. Everybody has their own troubles. That poor Nancy Blake died a month ago of acute pneumonia. Well, I didn't know her so well is all. That she was Chloe's friend. More than mine. Poor Nancy, it's a bother having to answer. He always tells me the wrong things and no stops to say like making a speech. Your sad bereavement. Sympathy, I always make that mistake. And nephew, with 2 double U's. I hope he'll write me a longer letter the next time, if it's a good thing. Really likes me. Oh, thanks to be the great God, I got somebody to give me what I badly wanted, to put some heart up into me. You've no chances at all in this place, like you used long ago. I wish somebody would write me a love letter. His wasn't much, and I told him he couldn't write what he liked. Yours ever, Hugh Boylan. In old Madrid, stuff silly women believe love is sighing. I am dying still. If he wrote it, I suppose there'd be some truth in it. True or no, it fills up your whole day, and life, always something to think about. Every moment and see it all around you like a new world. I could answer the right question in bed, to let him imagine me sort of... just a few words. Not those long crossed letters Addie Dillon used to write to the fellow that was something in the forecourts that jilted her after. Out of the lady's letter writer, when I told her to say a few simple words, he could twist how he liked, not acting with precipitancy. With equal candor, the greatest earthly happiness answered to a gentleman's proposal. Affirmatively, my goodness, there's nothing else. It's all very fine for them, but as for being a woman, as soon as they're old, they might as well throw you out of the bottom of the ash pit. Mulvey's was the first when I was in bed that morning, and Miss Rubio brought it in with the coffee. She stood there standing when I asked her to hand me, and I pointed at them. I couldn't think of the word, a hairpin, to open it with a horquilla. Disobliging old thing, and it's stirring about her, in the face with her switch of false hair on her, and vain about her appearance, ugly as she was, near 80 or a loo, her face a mess of wrinkles, with her all-religion domineering, because never could get over the Atlantic fleet, coming in half the ships of the world, and Union Jack flying with all her carabineros, because 4 drunken English sailors took all the rock from them, and because I didn't run into Mass often enough in Santa Maria to please her with her shawl up on her, except when there was a marriage on her, with all her miracles of the saints, and her black-dressed virgin with the silver dress, and the sun dancing 3 times on Easter morning, and when the priest was going by with the bell bringing the Vatican to the dying, blessing herself for his Majestad, an admirer, he signed it. Near jumped out of my skin. I wanted to pick him up when I saw him following me along the Collareel. In the shop window when he tipped me just in passing, but I never thought he'd write making an appointment. I had it inside my petticoat, Bodie's all day, reading it up in every hole and corner, while father was up at the drill instructing to find out the handwriting or the language of stamps, singing, I remember, Shall I Wear a White Rose? And I wanted to put on the stupid old clock to near the time when he was the first man kissed me under the Moorish wall, my sweetheart, when a boy. It never entered my head what kissing meant till he put his tongue in my mouth. His mouth was like sweet-like. Young, I put my knee up to him a few times to learn that way. What did I tell him I was engaged for fun of the son of a Spanish nobleman named Don Miguel de la Flora. And he believed me, that I was to be married to him in 3 years' time. There's many a true word spoken in jest. There's a flower that bloometh. A few things I told him true about myself, just for him to be imagining the Spanish girls he didn't like. I suppose one of them wouldn't have him. I got him excited. He crushed all the flowers on my bosom. He brought me. He couldn't count the pestils, or the paragordas, till I taught him Capuchin. He came from, he said, On the black water, but it was too short then, the day before he left May. Yes, it was May when the infant king of Spain was born. I'm always like that in the spring. I'd like a new fellow every year up on the tip-top under the rock gun near O'Hara's tower. I told him it was struck by lightning and all that the old Barbary apes they sent to clap him without a tail, careering all over the show on each other's back. Miss Rubio said she was a regular old rock scorpion robbing the chickens out of Inston's farms. Throw stones at you if you went in near, he was looking at me. I had that white blouse on open in the front, encourage him as much as I could without too openly. They were just beginning to be plump, I said. I was tired. We lay over the Fir Tree Cove, a wild place. I suppose it must be the highest rock in existence, the galleries and casemates and those frightful rocks in St. Michael's Cave with the icicles, or whatever they call them, hanging down, and ladders, all the mud, plotching my boots. I'm sure that's the way down. The monkeys go under the sea to Africa when they die. The ships out far like chips. That was the Malta boat passing, yes, the sea, and the sky you could do with what you liked there. Forever, he caressed them outside. They loved doing that. It's the roundness. There I was, leaning over him with my white rice straw hat to take the newness out of it, left side of my face, the best my blouse open for his last day, transparent kind of shirt. He had, I could see, his chest pink. He wanted to touch mine with his for a moment, but I wouldn't let him. He was awfully put out first, for fear you never know, consumption, or leave me with a child, embarazada. That old servant, Ines, told me that one drop, even if it got into you at all, after I tried with the banana, but I was afraid it might break and got lost up in me somewhere, because once they took something down out of a woman that was up there for years, covered with lime salts. They're all mad to get in there, where they come out. You'd think they could never go far up enough, and then they're done with you in a way till the next time. Yes, because there's a wonderful feeling. They're so tender all the time. How do we finish it off? Yes. Oh, yes, I pulled him off into my handkerchief. Pretended not to be excited, but I opened my legs. I wouldn't let him touch me inside my petticoat, because I had a skirt opening up the side. I tormented the life out of him, first tickling him. I loved rousing that dog in the hotel. His eyes shut and a bird flying below us. He was shy all the same. I liked him like that, moaning. I made him blush a little when I got over him. That way, when I unbuttoned him and took his out and drew back the skin, it had a kind of eye in it. They're all buttons, men down the middle and the wrong side of them. Molly darling, he called me. That was his name. Jack Joe Harry Mulvey. Was it? Yes, I think a lieutenant. He was rather fair. He had a laughing kind of a voice. So I went round to the what-you-call-it. Everything was a what-you-call-it. Mustache, had he. He said he'd come back. Lord, it's just yesterday to me. If I was married, he'd do it to me, and I promised him, yes, faithfully, I'd let him block me now. Flying, perhaps, he's dead or killed or a captain or admiral. It's nearly 20 years if I said Fir Tree Cove he would if he come up behind me and put his hands over my eyes. To guess who, I might recognize him. He's young still, about 40 perhaps. He's married, some girl in the black water, and it's quite changed. They all do. They haven't half the character a woman has. Little she knows what I did with her beloved husband before he ever dreamt of her in broad daylight. Too, in the sight of the whole world, you might say they could put an article about it in the Chronicle. I was a bit wild after. When I blew out the old bag, the biscuits were in from the Benedy Bros and exploded it, Lord. What a bang all the woodcocks and pigeons screaming came back the way that we all went over the middle hill round by the old guardhouse and the Jew's burial place pretending to read out the Hebrew. On them I wanted to fire his pistol. He said he hadn't one. He didn't know what to make of me with his peak cap on that he always wore crooked. So often as I settled it straight, HMS Calypso swinging my hat. That old bishop that spoke off the altar his long preach about woman's higher functions, about girls now riding the bicycle and wearing peak caps, and the new woman bloomers God send him since me and more money. I suppose they're called after him. I never thought that would be my name, Bloom. When I used to write it in the print, I see how it looked on a visiting card or practicing or the butcher and obliged Mr. Bloom. You're looking blooming, Josie, he used to say after I married him. Well, it's better than Breen or Briggs. Does Brig or those awful names with bottom in them. Miss Ramsbottom or some other kind of a bottom. Mulvey, I wouldn't go mad about either, or suppose I divorced him. Miss Boylan. My mother, whoever, she might have given me a nicer name. The Lord knows after the lovely one she had Lunita Laredo. The fun we had running along Willis Road to Europa, point twisting in and out all round the other side of Jersey. They were shaking and dancing about in my blouse like Millie's little ones. Now when she runs up the stairs, I loved looking down at them. I was jumping up at the pepper trees and the white poplars, pulling the leaves off and throwing them at him. He went to India. He was to write the voyages those men have to make to the ends of the world and come back. It's the least they might get a squeeze or two at the woman while they can, going out to be drowned or blown up somewhere. I went to Windmill Hill to the flats that Sunday morning with Captain Rubios. That was dead spyglass like the Sentry. Had he said he'd have one or two from on board, I wore that frock from B. March Paris and the coral necklace, the straight shining I could oversee over to Morocco. Almost the Bay of Tangier, white, and the Atlas Mountain with snow on it, and the straits like a river, so clear. Harry Molly, darling. I was thinking of him on the sea all the time. After at Mass, when my petticoat began to slip down at the elevation, weeks and weeks I kept the handkerchief under my pillow for that smell of him. There was no decent perfume to be got in that Gibraltar, only that cheap Peau d'Espagne that faded and left a stink on you more than anything else. I wanted to give him a memento. He gave me that clumsy Clara ring for luck that I gave Gardner going to South Africa, where those Boers killed him with their war and fever, but they were well beaten all the same, as if he'd brought back its luck with it. Like an opal or pearl, still it must have been pure 18-karat gold because it was very heavy. But what could you get in a place like that? The sandfrog shower from Africa and that derelict ship that came up from the harbor. Marie, what you call it? No, he hadn't a mustache. That was Gardner. Yes, I can see his face, clean shaven. Freeze, Frong. That train again, weeping tone, once in the deer. Dead days, beyond. Call, close my eyes, breathe my lips forward. Kiss, sad look, eyes, open piano, air o'er the world, the mist began. I hate that ist beg. Comes love's sweet song. I'll let that out full when it get in front of the footlights again, Kathleen Carney, and have her lot of squealers. Miss this, miss that, miss the other. Lot of sparrow farts skidding around talking about politics. They know as much about my backside anything in the world to make themselves some way interesting Irish, homemade beauties, soldiers' daughters, I am. Aye, and whose are you, bootmakers and Republicans? I beg your pardon, coach, I thought you were a wheelbarrow. They'd die down, dead off their feet if ever got the chance of walking down the Almada, on an officer's arm like me on the band night. My eyes flash, my bust they haven't passion, God help their poor head. I knew more about men and life when I was 15 than all they'll know at 50. They don't know how to sing a song like that, Gardner said. No man could look at my mouth and teeth smiling like that and not think of it. I was afraid he mightn't like my accent first. He's so English, all father left me in spite of his stamps. I've lost my mother's eyes. And figure, anyhow, he'll always said they're snotty about themselves. Some of those cads, he wasn't a bit like that. He was dead gone on my lips. Let them get a husband first that's fit to be looked at, and a daughter like mine, or see if they can excite a swell with money that can be pick and choose wherever he wants, like Boylan, to do it 4 or 5 times, locked in each other's arms, or the voice either. I could have been a prima donna, only I married him. Comes love, old deep down, chin back, not too much, make it double. My Lady Bowers is too long for an encore about the moated grange at twilight and vaunted rooms. Yes, I'll sing Winds That Blow from the South that he gave after the choir stairs performance. I'll change that lace on my black dress to show off my boobs. And yes, by God, I'll get that big fan mended, make them burst with envy. My hole is itching me always when I think of him. I feel some wind in me. Better go easy not to wake him. Have him at it again, slobbering after washing every bit of myself, back, belly, and sides. If we had a bath itself, or my own room anyway, I wish he'd slept in some bed by himself with his cold feet on me. Gives us room even to let a fart. God, or do the least thing better, yes. Hold him like that, a bit on my side, piano quietly, sweet. There's that train far away. Pianissimo, one more song. That was a relief wherever you be. Let your wind go free. Who knows if that pork chop I took with my cup of tea after was quite good, but the heat, I couldn't smell anything off it. I'm sure that queer-looking man in the pork butcher's is a great rogue. I hope that lamp is not smoking. Fill my nose up with smuts better than having him leaving the gas on all night. I couldn't rest easy in my bed in Gibraltar, even getting up to see why I'm so damn nervous about that. Though I like it in the winter, it's more company. Oh Lord, it was rotten cold too that winter, when I was only about 10. Yes. I had that big doll with all the funny clothes, dressing her up and undressing that icy wind, skeeting across from the house, those mountains, the something Sierra Nevada, standing at the fire with that little bit of a short shift. I had to heat up myself. I loved dancing about it in that, then make a race back into bed. I'm sure that fellow opposite used to be there the whole time, watching with the lights out in the summer. And I in my skin hopping around. I used to love myself, then stripped at the washstand, dabbing and creaming. Only when it came to the chamber performance. I put out the light too, so then there were only 2 of us. Goodbye to my sleep for this night, anyhow. I hope he's not going to get in with those medicals leading him astray to imagine he's young again, coming in at 4 in the morning. It must be, if not more still, he had the manners not to wake me. What do they find to gabber about all night, squandering money and getting drunker and drunker? Couldn't they drink water until he starts giving his orders for eggs and tea and Findon Haddie and hot buttered toast? I suppose we'll have him sitting up like he's the king of the country, pumping the wrong end of the spoon up and down in his egg, whenever he learned that from, and I love to hear him falling up the stairs of a morning with the cups rattling on the tray, and then play with the cats she rubs up against you for your own sake. I wonder, has she fleas? She's as bad as a woman, always licking and lecking, but I hate their claws. I wonder, do they see anything that we can't, staring like that, when she sits at the top of the stairs so long and listening as I wait? Always what a robber, too, that lovely fresh place. I think I'll get a bit of fish tomorrow, or today. Is it Friday? Yes. I will, with some blancmange and the black currant jam not long ago, not those 2-pound pots of mixed plum and apple from London and Newcastle Williams and Woods goes twice as far as for only bone. I hate those eels cods. Yes, I'll get a nice piece of cod. I'm always getting enough for 3, forgetting anyway. I'm sick of that everlasting butcher's meat from Buckley's loin chops and leg beef and rib steak and a scrag of mutton and calf's pluck. The very name is enough for a picnic, I suppose. We all gave 5 each, or let him pay it and invite some other woman for him who Miss Fleming drove out to the Furry Glen or the strawberry fields. He'd have him examining all the horses' toenails first, like he does with the letters. No, not the Boylan. There, yes, with some cold veal and ham mixed sandwiches. There are little houses down at the bottom of the banks. They're on purpose, but it's as hot as blazes. He says it's not a bank holiday. Anyhow, I hate those ruck of Marianne coal boxes. Out for the day. Whit Monday is a cursed day too. No wonder that bee hit him. Better the seaside, but I'd never again in this life get into a boat with him after him at Bray, telling the boatman he knew how to row if anyone asked. Could he ride the steeplechase for the Gold Cup? He'd say yes, then it came on to get a rough old thing crooketing about and the weight all down my side telling me to pull the right reins, now pull the left, and the tide all swamping in floods in through the bottom, and his oars slipping out of the stirrup. It's a mercy we weren't all drowned. He can swim, of course. Me, there's no danger whatsoever. Keep yourself calm in his flannel trousers. I'd like to have tattered them down off him before all the people, and give him what one calls flageolet, till he was black and blue. Do him all the good in the world, only for that long-nosed chap. I don't know who he is, with that other Beauty Burke out of the City Arms Hotel was there spying around as usual on the slip, always where he wasn't wanted. If there was a row on, you'd vomit. A better face. There was no love lost between us, though. That's one consolation. I wonder what kind of a book it is that he brought me. Sweets of Sin by a gentleman of fashion. Some other Mr. de Kock, I suppose. The people gave him that nickname, going about with his tube from one woman to another. I couldn't even change my new white shoes, all ruined with the salt water, and the hat I had with the feather all blowy and tossed on me. How annoying and provoking, because the smell of the sea excited me, of course. The sardines, and the bream in Catalan Bay round the back of the rock. They were fine, all silver in the fishermen's baskets. Old Luigi, near 100, they said, came from Genoa. And the tall old chap with the earrings, I don't like a man you have to climb up to get at. I suppose they're all dead and rotten long ago. Besides, I don't like being alone in this big barracks of a place at night. I suppose I'll have to put up with it. I never brought a bit of salt in, even when we moved in the Confusion Musical Academy. He was going to make on the first floor drawing room with a brass plate or Bloom's private hotel. He suggested go and ruin himself altogether the way his father did down in Ennis, like all things he told his father he was going to do, and me. But I saw through him telling me all the lovely places we could go for the honeymoon, Venice by moonlight with the gondolas and the Lake of Como. He had a picture cut out of the same paper of, and mandolins, and lanterns. Oh, how nice, I said. Whatever I liked he was going to do immediately, if not sooner. Will you be my man? Will you carry my can? He ought to get a leather medal with a putty rim for all the plans he invents. Then leaving us here all day, you'd never know what the old beggar at the door for a crust with his long story might be a tramp and put his foot in the way to prevent me shutting it. Like that picture of that hardened criminal he was called in Lloyd's Weekly. News, 20 years in jail, then he comes out and murders an old woman for her money. Imagine his poor wife or mother, whoever she is. Such a face you'd run miles away from. I couldn't rest easy till I bolted all the doors and windows to make sure. But it's worse again, being locked up like that in a prison or a madhouse. They ought to be all shot, or the cat o' nine tails, a big brute like that would attack a poor old woman to murder her in her bed. I'd cut them off him, so I would not that he be much use, still better than nothing the nights I was sure I heard burglars in the kitchen, and he went down in his shirt with a candle and a poker as if he was looking for a mouse as white as a sheet, frightened out of his wits, making as much noise as he possibly could for a burglar's benefit. There isn't much to steal, indeed, the Lord knows. Still, it's the feeling, especially now with Millie. Away such an idea for him to send the girl down there to learn to take photographs on account of his grandfather, instead of sending her to Scary's Academy, where she'd have to learn, not like me, getting all I's at school. Only he'd do a thing like that all the same on account of me and Boylan. That's why he did it. I'm certain the way he plots and plans everything out, I couldn't turn round with her in the place lately unless I bolted the door first. Gave me the fidgets coming in without knocking first when I put the chair against the door, just as I was washing myself there below with the glove. Get on your nerves then, doing the log lady all day, put her in the glass case with two at a time to look at her. If he knew she broke off the hand off that little grimcrack statue with her roughness and carelessness before she left, that I got that little Italian boy to mend so that you can't see the join for 2 shillings. Wouldn't even team the potatoes for you, of course. She's right not to ruin her hands. I noticed he was always talking to her lately at the table, explaining things in the paper, and she's pretending to understand, Sly, of course. That come from his side of the house, he can't say. I pretend things. Can he? I'm too honest, as a matter of fact, and helping her into her coat, but if there was anything wrong with her, it's me. Shed. Tell him. I suppose he thinks I'm finished out and laid on the shelf. Well, I'm not, no, nor anything like it. Well, see, we'll see. Now she's well on for flirting, too, with Tom Devon's 2 sons imitating me, whistling with those romps of Murray girls, calling for her. Can Millie come out? Please, she's in great demand to pick what they can out of her round of Nelson Street, riding Harry Devon's bicycle at it. It's well, as he sent her where she is. She was just getting out of bounds, wanting to go onto the skating rink and smoking their cigarettes through her nose. I smelt it off her dress when I was biting off the thread of the button I sewed on to the bottom of her jacket. She couldn't hide much from me, I tell you, only I oughtn't to have stitched it. And it, on her, it brings a parting, and the last plum pudding 2 split in 2 halves. See, it comes out no matter, they say. Her tongue is a bit too long for my taste. Your blouse is open too low, she says to me, the pan calling the kettle black bottom. And I had to tell her not to cock her legs up like that on show on the windowsill before all the people passin'. They all look at her like me when I was at her age. Of course, any old rag looks well on you, then a touch me not, too, in her own way. At the only way, in the Theatre Royal, take your foot away. Out of that, I hate people touching me. Afraid of her life, I'd crutch her skirt with the pleats of lot. Of that touching must go on in theaters in the crush of the dark. They're always trying to wiggle up to you, that fellow in the pit at the Gaiety for a beer bomb tree and Trilby. The last time I'll ever go there to be squashed like that for any Trilby or a bare bum every 2 minutes tipping me there. And looking away, he's a bit daft, I think. I saw him after trying to get near 2 stylish dressed ladies outside Switzer's windows. At the same time, little game, I recognized him on the moment, the face. Everything, but he didn't remember me. Yes, and she didn't even want me to kiss her. At the Broadstone, going away. Well, I hope she'll get someone to dance attendance on her, the way I did when she was down with the mumps and her glands swollen. Where's this and where's that, of course. She can't feel anything deep yet. I never came properly till I was about 22 or so. It went into the wrong place. Always, only the usual girls' nonsense and giggling that Connie Connolly writing to her in white ink on black paper, sealed with sealing wax, though she clapped when the curtain came down because he looked so handsome when he had Martin Harvey for breakfast, dinner, and supper. I thought to myself afterwards, it must be real love if a man gives up his life for her that way. For nothing, I suppose. There are a few men like that left. It's hard to believe in it. Though, unless it really happened to me, the majority of them, not a particle of love in their natures to find 2 people like that nowadays, full up of each other that would feel the same way as you do. They're usually a bit foolish in the head. His father must have been a bit queer to go and poison himself after her. Still poor old man, I suppose. He felt lost. She's always making love to my things, too, the few old rags I have wanting to put her hair up. At ones, my powder, too, only ruins her skin. On her, she's time enough for all that in her life. After, of course, she's restless, knowing she's pretty with her lips so red. A pity they won't stay that way. I was too, but there's no use going to the fair with the thing answering me like a fishwoman when I asked to go for a half a stone of potatoes a day. We met Mrs. Joe Gallagher at the trotting matches, and she pretended not to see us in her trap with Fiery the solicitor weren't grand enough till I gave her 2 damn fine cracks across the ear for herself. Take that now for answering me like that, and that for your impudence. She had me, that exasperated, of course, contradicting. I was bad-tempered, too, because how was it there was a weed in the tea, or I didn't sleep the night before, cheese I ate, was it? And I told her, over and over again, not to leave knives across like that, because she has nobody to command her, as she said herself. Well, if she doesn't correct her faith, I will. That was the last time she turned on the tear tap. I was just like that myself. They daren't order me about the place. It's his fault, of course, having the two of us slaving here, instead of getting in a woman long ago. Am I ever going to have a proper servant again? Of course, then she'd see him coming. I'd have to let her know or she'd revenge it. Aren't they a nuisance, that old Miss Fleming? You have to be walking around after her, putting the things into her hands, sneezing and farting into the pots. Well, of course she's old, she can't help it. A good job I found that rotten old smelly dishcloth that got lost behind the dresser. I knew there was something and opened the window to let out the smell, bringing in his friends to entertain them like the night he walked home with a dog, if you please. That might have been mad, especially Simon Daedalus' son, his father, such a criticizer with his glasses up, with his tall hat on him, at the cricket match. And a great big hole in his sock, one thing laughing at the other, and his son that got all the prizes for whatever he won them in the intermediate, imagine climbing over the railings. If anyone saw him that knew us, I wonder, he didn't tear a big hole in his grand funeral trousers, as if the one nature gave wasn't enough for anybody hawking him down into the dirty old kitchen. Now, is he right in his head, I ask? Pity it wasn't washing day. My old pair of drawers might have been hanging up, too, on the line, on exhibition, for all he'd ever care, with the iron mold mark, the stupid old bundle burned on them. He might think was something else, and she never even rendered down the fat. I told her, and now she's going such as she was on account of her paralyzed husband getting worse. There's always something wrong with them, disease, or they have to go under an operation, or if it's not that it's drink and he beats her, I'll have to hunt around again for someone every day. I get up, there's some new thing on sweet God, sweet God. Well, when I'm stretched out dead in my grave, I suppose 111 have some peace. I want to get up a minute. If I'm wait, oh Jesus, wait, yes, that thing has come on me, yes. Now, wouldn't that afflict you, of course, all the poking and rooting and plowing he had up in me? What am I to do on Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Wouldn't that pester the soul that have a body, unless he likes it? Some men do, God knows. There's always something wrong with us, 5 days, every 3 or 4 weeks, usually monthly auction. Isn't it simply sickening the night it came on me? Like that at one and only time we were in the box that Michael Gunn gave him to see Miss Kendall and her husband at the Gaiety. Something he did about insurance for him and Drimmy's. I was fit to be tied, though. I wouldn't give in with that gentleman of fashion staring down at me with his glasses and him the other side of me talking about his Spinoza and his soul that's dead. I suppose millions of years ago I smiled the best I could, all in a swamp, leaning forward as if I was interested, having to sit out then to the last tag. I won't forget that wife of Scarley in a hurry, supposed to be a fast play about adultery. That idiot in the gallery hissing the woman adulteress. He shouted, I suppose he went, and had a woman in the next lane running around all the back ways after to make up for it. I wish he had what I had then. He'd boo. I bet the cat itself is better off than us. We have too much blood up in us, or what? Oh, patience! Above it's pouring out of me like the sea. Anyhow, he didn't make me pregnant as big as he is. I don't want to ruin the clean sheets I just put on. I suppose the clean linen I wore brought it on, too. Damn it, damn it. And they always want to see a stain on the bed, to know you're a virgin for them, all that's troubling them, they're such fools. You could be a widow or divorced 40 times over. A daub of red ink would do, or blackberry juice. No, that's too purply. Oh, Jamesie. Let me up out of this poo, sweets of sin. Whoever suggested that business for women, between clothes and cooking and children, this be damned old bed, too jingling like the Dickens. I suppose they could hear us away over the other side of the park, till I suggested to put the quilt on the floor with the pillow under my bottom. I wonder, is it nicer in the day? I think it is easy. I think I'll cut off all this hair off me. They're scalding me, like I look like a young girl. Wouldn't he get the great suckin' the next time he turned up my clothes? I'd give him anything to see his face. Where's that chamber gone easy? I've a holy horror of it breaking under me after that old commode. I wonder, was I too heavy sitting on his knee? I made him sit in the easy chair purposely, and when I took off my only blouse and skirt, first in the other room, he was so busy where he oughtn't to be, he never felt me. I hope my breath was sweet after those kissing confits. Easy God, I remember one time I could scout it out straight, whistling like a man, almost easy. Oh, Lord. How noisy. I hope there are bubbles on it for a wad of money for some fellow. 111. Have to perfume it in the morning. Don't forget. I bet he never saw a better pair of thighs that look like how white they are. The smoothest place is right there between this bit here, how soft like a peach. Easy, God, I wouldn't mind being a man and get up on a lovely woman. Oh, Lord, what a row you're making like the Jersey lily. Easy, easy, oh how the waters come down at Lahore. Who knows, is there anything like the matter with my insides, or have I something growing in me, getting that thing like that every week? When was it last? I Whit Monday. Yes, it's only about 3 weeks. I have to go to the doctor. Only it would be like before I married him, when I had that white thing coming from me, and Floey made me go to the dry old stick, Dr. Collins, for women's diseases on Pembroke Road. Your vagina, he called it. I suppose that's how he got all the gilt mirrors and carpets, getting round those rich ones off Stephen's Green, running up to him for every little fiddle-faddle, her vagina or her cock and kina. They've money, of course, so they're all right. I wouldn't marry him, not if he was the last man in the world. Besides, there's something queer about their children, always smelling around those filthy bitches all sides, asking me if what I did had an offensive odor. What did he want me to do but the one thing? Gold. Maybe what's the question? If I smothered it all over his wrinkly old face for him with all my compliments, I suppose he'd know then. And could you pass it easily? Pass what I thought he was talking about in the Rock of Gibraltar. The way he put it, that's a very nice invention too. But, by the way, only I like letting myself down after the hole as far as I can squeeze and pull the chain, then to flush it nice. Cool pins and needles. Still, there's something in it. I suppose I always used to know by Millie's when she was a child, whether she had worms or not. Still, all the same, paying him for how much is that doctor? 1 guinea, please, and asking me had I frequent omissions. Where those old fellows get all the words they have. Omissions, with his short-sighted eyes on me, cocked sideways. I wouldn't trust him too far to give me chloroform or God knows what else. Still, I liked him when he sat down to write the thing out, frowning so severe, his nose intelligent like that. You be damned, you lying strapo. Anything. No matter who, except an idiot. He was clever enough to spot that, of course. That was all thinking of him and his mad, crazy letters. My precious one, everything connected with her glorious body, everything underlined that comes from it is a thing of beauty and of joy. Forever, something he got out of some nonsensical book that he had me always at myself 4 and 5 times a day sometimes. And I said I hadn't. Are you sure? Oh yes, I said I am quite sure. In a way that shut him up I knew. What was coming next, only natural weakness. It was he excited me. I don't know how the first night ever we met, when I was in the living in the Rehoboth Terrace. We stood staring at one another for about 10 minutes, as if we met somewhere, I suppose, on account of my being Jewess. Looking after my mother, he used to amuse me, the things he said about the half-sleuthering smile on him, and all the Doyles said he was going to stand for a member of Parliament. Oh, wasn't I born the fool to believe all his blather about Home Rule and the Land League sending me that long strool of a song out of the Huguenots to sing in French? To be more classy, oh beau, pays de la Touraine. And I never even sang once explaining and rigmaroling about the religion and persecution. He won't let you enjoy anything naturally. Then might he, as a great favor, the very first opportunity he got, a chance in Brighton, square running into my bedroom, pretending the ink got on his hands to wash it off with the Albion milk and sulphur soap that I used to use and the gelatine still round it. Oh, I laughed myself sick at him that day. I better not make an all night sitting on this affair. They ought to make chambers a natural size so that a woman could sit on it properly. He kneels down to it, I suppose. There isn't in all creation another man with the habits he has. Look at the way he's sleeping on the foot of the bed. How can he without a hard bolster? It's well, he doesn't kick, or he might knock out all my teeth, breathing with his hand and his nose, like that Indian god he took me to show one wet Sunday in the Museum of Kildare Street. All yellow in a pinafore lying on his side on his hand, with his 10 toes sticking out that he said was a bigger religion than the Jews and our Lords both put together. All over Asia imitating him, as he's always imitating everybody, I suppose. He used to sleep at the foot of the bed too, with his big square feet up in his wife's mouth. Damn this stinking thing anyway. Where's this those napkins are? Ah, yes, I know, I hope the old press doesn't creak. Ah, I knew it would. He's sleeping hard, had a good time somewhere, still. She mustn't give him great value for his money, of course. He has to pay for it from her. Oh, this nuisance of a thing. I hope they'll have something better for us in the other world. Tying ourselves up. Oh, God, help us. That's all right, for tonight. Now the lumpy old jingling bed always reminds me of old Cohen. I suppose he scratched himself in it often enough, and he thinks father bought it from Lord Napier that I used to admire when I was a little girl, because I told him, easy piano. Oh, I like my bed. God, here we are as bad as ever after 16 years. How many houses were we in at all Raymond Terrace and Ontario Terrace and Lombard Street and Hollis Street? And he goes about whistling every time we're on the run again, his Huguenots or the Frog's March, pretending to help the men with our 4 sticks of furniture. And then the City Arms Hotel, worse and worse, says Warden Daly. That charming place on the landing, always somebody inside praying then, leaving all their stinks after them, always know who was in there last. Every time we're just getting on right, something happens or he puts his big foot in it. On Tom's and Helly's and Mr. Cuff's and Jimmy's, either he's going to be run into prison over his old lottery tickets that was to be all our salvations, or he goes and gives impudence. Well, have him come home with a sack soon out of Freeman too, like the rest on accounts of those sinner fine or the Freemasons. Then we'll see if the little man he showed me dribbling along in the wet all by himself round by Cody's Lane will give him much consolation. That he says is so capable and sincerely Irish he is indeed judging by the sincerity of the trousers I saw on him. Wait, there's George, church bells. Wait, 3/4 the hour. One wait, 2 o'clock. Well, that's a nice hour of the night for him to be coming home at too. Anybody climbing down into the area? If anybody saw him, I'll knock him off that little habit tomorrow. First, I'll look at his shirt to see if he has that French letter still in his pocketbook. I suppose he thinks I don't know deceitful men all their 20 pockets aren't enough for their lies. Then why should we tell them? Even if it's the truth, they don't believe you. And tucked up in bed like those babies in the aristocrat's masterpiece. He brought me another time as if we hadn't had enough of that in real life without some old aristocrat or whatever his name is, disgusting you with more of those rotten pictures, children with 2 heads and no legs. That's the kind of villainy they're always dreaming about, with not another thing in their empty heads. They ought to get slow poison, the half of them. Then tea and toast for him, buttered on both sides, and new laid eggs. I suppose I'm nothing any more, that I wouldn't let him lick me in Hollis Street one night. Man tyrant as ever, for the one thing he slept on the floor half the night, naked the way the Jews used when somebody dies belonged to them, and wouldn't eat any breakfast or speak a word, wanting to be petted, so I thought I stood out enough for one time, and let him he does it all wrong, too, thinking only of his own pleasure. His tongue is too flat, or I don't know what he forgets that I'll make him do it again if he doesn't mind himself, and lock him down to sleep in the coal cellar with the black beetles. I wonder, was it her Josie off her head with my cast-offs? He's such a born liar, too. Oh, he'd never have the courage with a married woman. That's why he wants me and Boylan. Though, as for her, Dennis as she calls him, that forlorn-looking spectacle, you couldn't call him a husband. Yes, it's some little bitch he's got in. Even when I was with him, with Millie, at the college races, that hornblower with that child's bonnet on the top of the knob lets us back in the back way. He was throwing his sheep's eyes at those two, doing skirt duty up and down. I tried to wink at him first. No use, of course, and that's the way his money goes. This is the fruits of Mr. Paddy Dignam. Yes, they were all in great style at the grand funeral in the paper Boylan brought in. If they saw real officers' funeral, that'd be something reversed. Arms muffled, drums, the poor horse walking behind in black, L. Bloom and Tom Curtin, that drunken little barely man that bit his tongue off, falling down the men's WC, drunk, in some place or other. And Martin Cunningham and the 2 Daedalus and Fanny McCoy's husband, white head of cabbage, skinny thing, with a turn in her eye, trying to sing my songs. She'd want to be born all over again, and her old green dress with the low neck as she can't attract them any other way, like dabbling on a rainy day. I see it all now, plainly, and they call that friendship killing and then burying one another. And they all with their wives and families at home, more especially Jack Power, keeping that barmaid he does, of course. His wife is always sick or going to be sick or just getting better of it, and he's a good-looking man. Still, though, he's getting a bit gray over the ears. They're a nice lot of them, well, when they're not going to get my husband again into their clutches. If I can help it, making fun of him. And behind his back, I know well when he goes on with his idiotics, because he has sense enough not to squander every penny piece he earns down their gullets, and looks after his wife and family good-for-nothings. Poor Paddy Dignam. All the same, I'm sorry in a way for him. What are his wife and 5 children going to do unless he was insured? Comical little teetotum, always stuck up in some pub corner. And her, or her son, waiting Bill Bailey. Won't you please come home? Her widow weeds won't improve her appearance. They're awfully becoming, though, if you're good-looking. What men wasn't he, yes. He was at the Glencree dinner and Ben Dollard bass baritone the night he borrowed the Swallowtail to sing out of in Hollis Street. Squeezed and squashed into them, grinning all over his big dolly face like a well-whipped child's body. Didn't he look a balmy bollocks? Sure enough, that must have been a spectacle. On the stage, imagine paying $5 in the preserved seats for that to see him trotting off in his trowlers, and Simon Daedalus, too. He was always turning up, half-screwed, singing the second verse, first the old love as the new. One of his so sweetly sang the maiden on the hawthorn bough. He was always on for flirty-fying, too. When I sang Maritana with him at Freddie Mayer's private opera, he had a delicious, glorious voice. Phoebe, dearest, goodbye, sweetheart. Sweetheart, he always sang it, not always like Bartell Darcy. Sweet tart, goodbye, of course. He had the gift of the voice. So there was no art in it all. over you like a warm shower bath. Oh, Maritana, wildwood flower, we sang splendidly, though it was a bit too high for my register, even transposed, and he was married at the time to May Golding. But then he'd say or do something to knock the good out of it. He's a widower now. I wonder what sort is his son. He says he's an author and going to a university, professor of Italian, and I'm to take lessons. What is he driving at now? Showing him my photo. It's not good of me. I ought to have got it taken in drapery. That never looks out of fashion. Still, I look young in it. I wonder he didn't make him a present of it altogether. And me too, after all. Why not? I saw him driving down to the Kingsbridge station with his father and mother. I was in mourning. That's 11 years ago now. Yes, he'd be 11, though what was the good in going into mourning for that? What was neither one thing nor the other, the first to cry was enough for me. I heard the death watch, 2 ticking in the wall, of course. He insisted he'd go into mourning for the cat. I suppose he's a man now, by this time. He was an innocent boy then, and a darling little fellow in his Lord Fauntleroy suit, and curly hair like a prince on the stage when I saw him at Matt Dillon's. He liked me too, I remember. They all do. Wait by, God, yes, wait, hold on. He was on the cards this morning when I laid out on the deck union with a younger stranger, neither dark nor fair you met before, I thought. It meant him, but he's no chicken, nor a stranger either. Besides, my face was turned the other way. What was the 7th card after that? The 10 of spades for a journey by land. Then there was a letter on its way, and scandals too, the 3 queens and the 8 of diamonds for a rise in society. Yes, wait, it all came out, and 2 red 8s for new garments. Look at that. And didn't I dream something? Yes, there was something about poetry in it. I hope he hasn't long greasy hair hanging into his eyes or standing up like a red Indian. What do they go about like that, for only getting themselves and their poetry laughed at? I always liked poetry when I was a girl. First, I thought he was a poet like Lord Byron, and not an ounce of it in his composition. I thought he was quite different. I wonder, is he too young? He's about, 88? I was married 88. Millie is 15 yesterday. 89. What age was he then, at Dillon's 5 or 6? About 88, I suppose. He's 20 or more. I'm not too old for him if he's 23 or 24. I hope he's not that stuck-up university student sort. No, otherwise he wouldn't go sitting down in the old kitchen with him talking Epps Cocoa. And talking, of course, he pretended to understand it all. Probably he told him he was out of Trinity College. He's very young to be a professor. I hope he's not a professor like Goodwin. Was he a potent professor of John Jameson? They all write about some woman in their poetry. Well, I suppose you won't find many like me, where softly sighs of love the light guitar, where poetry is in the air, the blue sea and the moon shining so beautifully coming back on the night boat from Tarifa, the lighthouse at Europa. Point the guitar that fellow played was so expressive. Will I ever go back there again? All new faces, 2 glancing eyes, a lattice, hid. I'll sing that for him. They're my eyes, if he's anything of a poet. 2 eyes as darkly bright as loved one's own stars. Aren't those beautiful words? As love's young star, it'll be the change the Lord knows to have an intelligent person to talk about yourself. Not always listening to him and Billy Prescott's ad, and Key's ad, and the Tom the Devil's ad. Then if anything goes wrong in their business, we have to suffer. I'm sure he's very distinguished. I'd like to meet a man like that. God, not those other ruck. Besides, he's young. Those fine young men I could see down in Margate Strand bathing place from the side of the rock, standing up in the sun, naked like a god or something, and then plunging into the sea with them. Why aren't all men like that? There'd be some consolation for a woman like that lovely little statue he bought. I could look at him all day, long curly head and his shoulders, his finger out for you to listen. There's real beauty in poetry for you. I often felt it. I wanted to kiss him all over. Also, his lovely young cock there, so simple, I wouldn't mind taking him in my mouth if nobody was looking, as if it was asking you to suck it so clean and white. He looks with his boyish face. I would too, in half a minute, even if some of it went down. What's it only, like gruel or the dew? There's no danger. Besides, he'd be so clean compared with those pigs of men. I suppose never dream of washing it from one year's end to the other. The most of them. Only that's what gives the women the mustaches, I'm sure. It'll be grand if I can get only in with that handsome young poet at my age. I'll throw them the first thing in the morning, till I see if the wish card comes out, or try pairing the lady herself and see if he comes out. I'll read and study all I can find, or learn a bit off my heart if I knew who he likes, so he won't think me stupid if he thinks all women are the same, and I can teach him the other part. I'll make him feel all over him till he faints under me. Then he'll write about me, lover and mistress, publicly too, with our 2 photographs in all the papers, when he becomes famous. Oh, but then what am I going to do about him, though? No, that's no way for him. He has no manners, nor no refinement, nor no nothing in his nature, slapping us behind like that on my bottom because I didn't call him Hugh the ignoramus. That doesn't know poetry from a cabbage. That's what you get for not keeping them in their proper place, pulling off his shoes and trousers there on the chair before me so barefaced without even asking me permission, and standing out that vulgar way in the half of a shirt they wear to be admired like a priest or a butcher, or those old hypocrites the time of Julius Caesar, of course. He's right enough in his way to pass the time as a joke. Sure, you might as well be in bed with a lion god. I'm sure he'd have something better to say for himself. An old lion would, oh well. I suppose it's because they're so plump and tempting in my short petticoat. He couldn't resist they excite myself sometimes. It's well for men, all the amount of pleasure they get off a woman's body were so round and white for them. Always I wished I was one myself for a change, just to try that thing they have swelling up on you so hard. And at the same time, so soft when you touch it. My Uncle John has a thing long, I heard. Those corner boys saying, passing the comers of Marrowbone Lane, my Aunt Mary has a thing, hairy, because it was dark and they knew a girl was passing it didn't make me blush. Why should it either? It's only nature, and he puts the thing long into my Aunt Mary's hairy, etc., and turns out to be you put the handle in the sweeping brush. Men, again, all over, they can pick and choose what they please, a married woman or a fast widow or a girl for their different tastes, like those houses round behind Irish Street. No, but we're always chained up. They're not going to be chaining me up, no damn fear once I start, I tell you, for their stupid husband's jealousy. Why can't we all remain friends over it instead of quarreling? Her husband found it out. What they did together, well, naturally. And if he can undo it, he's a Coronado anyway, whatever he does. And then he's going to the other mad extreme about his wife and fair tyrants. Of course, the man never even casts a second thought on the husband or wife. Either it's the woman he wants, and he gets her. What else were we given? All those desires for. I'd like to know. I can't help it if I'm young. Still, can I? It's a wonder. I'm not an old shriveled hag before my time, living with him so cold, never embracing me except sometimes when he's asleep the wrong end of me, not knowing, I suppose, who he has, any man that kiss a woman's bottom. I'd throw my hat at him. After that, he'd kiss anything unnatural, where we haven't one atom of any kind of expression in us to do all the same. 2 lumps of lard before I'd ever do that to a man's pfoo. The dirty brutes, the mere thought is enough I kiss the feet of you, señorita. There's some sense in that. Didn't he kiss our hall door? Yes, he did. What a madman. Nobody understands his cracked ideas but me. Still, of course, a woman wants to be embraced 20 times a day almost to make her look young, no matter by who. So long as to be in love or loved by somebody, if the fellow you want isn't there, sometimes, by the Lord God, I was thinking, would I go around by the quays? There's some dark evening where nobody would know me and pick up a sailor off the sea. That'd be hot on for it. And not a care, a pen, whose I was only. Do it off up in a gate somewhere, or one in those wild-looking gypsies in Rathfarnham. Had their camp pitched near the Bloomfield Laundry to try and steal our things. If they could only, I sent mine there. A few times, for the name Model Laundry, sending me back over and over some old ones, odd stockings, that blackguarding-looking fellow with the fine eyes, peeling a switch, attack me in the dark and ride me up against the wall without a word, or a murderer, anybody. That they do themselves, the fine gentlemen in their silk hats with KC lives up somewhere this way, coming out of Hardwick Lane, the night he gave us the fish supper on account of winning over the boxing match. Of course, it was for me he gave it. I knew him by his gaiters in the walk, and when I turned round a minute after, just to see, there was a woman after coming out of it too, some filthy prostitute. Then he goes home to his wife after that. Only, I suppose the half of those sailors are rotten again with disease. Oh, move o'er your big carcass. Out of that for the love of Mike. Listen to him in the winds that waft my sighs to thee. So well he may sleep and sigh, the great suggester Don Poldo de la Flora. If he knew how he came out on the cards this morning, he'd have something to sigh for a dark man in some perplexity. Between 2 sevens, too, in prison, for Lord knows what he does that I don't know. And I'm to be slouching around in the kitchen to get his lordship his breakfast while he's rolled up like a mummy. Will I indeed? Did you ever see me running? I'd just like to see myself at it, show them attention, and they treat you like dirt. I don't care what anybody says, it'd be much better for the world to be governed by the women in it. You wouldn't see women going over and killing one another and slaughtering when you do ever see women rolling around drunk like they do or gambling every penny they have and losing it on horses. Yes, because a woman, whatever she does, she knows where to stop. Sure, they wouldn't in the world at all only for us. They don't know what it is to be a woman and a mother. How could they? Where would they all of them be if they hadn't all had a mother to look after them? I never had that. That's why I suppose he's running wild now. Out at night away from his books and studies and not living at home on account of the usual rowy house. I suppose, well, it's a poor case that those that have a fine son like that, they're not satisfied. And I none was he not able to make one. It wasn't my fault. We came together. When I was watching the two dogs up in her behind in the middle of the naked street, that disheartened me altogether. I suppose I oughtn't to have buried him in that little woolly jacket I knitted, crying as I was, but give it to some poor child. But I knew well I'd never have another. Our first death, too, as we were never the same since. Oh, I'm not going to think myself into the glooms about that anymore. I wonder why he wouldn't stay the night. I felt all the time it was somebody strange he brought in instead of roving around the city, meeting God knows who, night walkers and pickpockets. His poor mother wouldn't like that if she were alive, ruining himself for life. Perhaps. Still, it's a lovely hour, so silent. I used to love coming home after dances, the air of the night. They have friends they can walk to. We've none. Either he wants that he won't get, or it's some woman ready to stick her knife in you. I hate that in women. No wonder they treat us the way they do. We're a dreadful lot of bitches. I suppose it's all the troubles we have makes us so snappy. I'm not like that. He could have easily slept in there on the sofa in the other room. I suppose he was as shy as a boy. He being so young, hardly 20 of me in the next room, he'd have heard me on the chamber of Raw. What harm, Daedalus, I wonder? It's like whose names in Gibraltar, de la Paz de la Garcia. Had they the devil's queer names, their father, Villaplana of Santa Maria? That gave me the rosary, Rosales O'Reilly, the Kaila La Cita Revoletas, and the Pasimbo and Mr. Opiso in Governor Street. Oh, what a name I'd go and drown myself in the first street if I had a name like her. Oh my, and all the bits of street, Paradise Ramp and Bedlin Ramp and Rogers Ramp and Crutchett's Ramp and the Devil's Gate steps. Well, small to blame me, I am a harum-scarum. I know I'm a bit, I declare to God, I don't feel a day older than when I wonder, could I get my tongue round any of the Spanish como está usted, muy bueno, gracias y usted? See, I haven't forgotten it all. I thought I had, only for the grammar. A noun is the name of a person, place, or thing. Pity I never tried to read that novel, El Cantankerous, Mrs. Rubio, lent me by Verlira, with the questions in it all upside down. The two ways I always knew we'd go away in the end. I can tell him the Spanish and he tell me the Italian. Then he'll see I'm not so ignorant. What a pity he didn't stay. I'm sure the poor fellow was dead tired and wanted a good sleep badly. I could have brought him in his breakfast in bed with a bit of toast, so long as I didn't do it with a knife for bad luck, or if the woman was going her rounds, with the watercress or something nice and tasty, that there are a few olives in the kitchen he might like. I never could bear the look of them in Abrines. I could do the criada in the room. Looks all right since I changed it the other way. You see, something was telling me all the time I'd have to introduce myself, not knowing me from Adam. Very funny, wouldn't it? I'm his wife, or pretend. We were in Spain with him, half awake, without a god's notion where he is. Dos huevos estrellados, señor. Lord, the crack thing comes into my head. Sometimes it'd be great fun supposing he stayed with us. Why not? There's a room upstairs, empty, and Millie's bed in the back room. He could do his writing and studies at the table in there for all the scribbling he does at it. And if he wants to read in bed in the morning, like me, as he's making the breakfast, he can make it for two. I'm sure I'm not going to take in lodgers off street for him if he takes a gazebo of the house. Like this, I'd love to have a long talk with an intelligent, well-educated person. I'd have to get a nice pair of red slippers like those Turks with the fez used to sell, or yellow and a nice semi-transparent morning gown that I badly want, or a peach blossom dressing jacket like the one long ago in Walpole's, only 8 and 6 or 18 and 6. I'll just give him one more chance. I'll get up early in the morning. I'm sick of Cohen's old bed. In any case, I might go over to the markets to see all the vegetables and cabbages and tomatoes and carrots and all kinds of splendid fruits, all coming in lovely and fresh. Who knows who'd be the first man I'd meet out there, looking for it in the morning? Mammy Dillon used to say they are, and the night too. That there was mass going, I'd love a big juicy pear now to melt in your mouth, like when I used to be in the longing way. Then I'll throw him up his eggs and tea in the mustache cup she gave him, make his mouth bigger. I suppose he'd like my nice cream too. I know what I'll do. I'll go about rather gay, not too much singing a bit now, and then mi fa pieta maceto. Then I'll start dressing myself to go out. Presto non si pui forte. I'll put on my best shift and drawers, let him have a good eyeful out of that to make his Mickey stand for him. I'll let him know, if it's what he wanted, that his wife is. I slow fucked, yes, and damn well fucked too, up my neck, nearly, not by him 5 or 6 times, hand running. There's a mark of a spunk on the clean sheet. I wouldn't even bother to iron it out. That ought to satisfy him. If you don't believe me, feel my belly, unless I made him stand there and put him onto me. I've a mind to tell him every scrap and make him do it out in front of me to serve him right. It's all his own fault. If I'm an adulteress, as the thing in the gallery said. Oh, much about it if that's all the harm we ever did. In this vale of tears, God knows it's not much, doesn't everybody? Only they hide it. I suppose that's what a woman is, supposed to be there for, or... He wouldn't have made us the way he did, so attracted to men that if he wants to kiss my bottom, I'll drag open my drawers and bulge it right in his face as large as life. He can stick his tongue 7 miles up my hole as there's my brown part. Then I'll tell him, I want it. Perhaps 30. I'll tell him, I want to buy underclothes. Then if he gives me that, well, he won't be too bad. But I don't want to soak it all out of him, like other women do. I could often have written out a fine check for myself and write his name on it for a couple of pounds a few times. He forgot to lock it up. Besides, he won't spend it. I'll let him do it off on me, behind, provided he doesn't smear all my good drawers. Oh, I suppose that can't be helped. I'll do the indifferent 1 or 2 questions. I'll know by the answers when he's like that, he can't keep a thing back. I know every turn in him. I'll tighten my bottom well and let out a few smutty words, smell rumper, lick my shit, or the first mad thing comes into my head. Then I'll suggest about, yes, oh, wait, now Sonny, my turn, is coming. I'll be quite gay and friendly over it, but I was forgetting this bloody pest of a thing. Pooh, you wouldn't know which to laugh or cry. We're such a mixture of plum and apple. No, I'll have to wear the old thing so much the better it'll be more pointed. Hell, he'll never know whether he did it or not. There's good enough for you, any old thing at all. Then I'll wipe him off me, just like a business, his omission. Then I'll go out. I'll have him eyeing up at the ceiling, where she is gone now. Make him want me. That's the only way, a quarter after. What an unearthly hour. I suppose they're just getting up in China now. Combing about their pigtails for the day. We'll soon have the nuns ringing the Angelus. They've nobody coming in to spoil their sleep except an odd priest or two for his night office, or the alarm clock next door at cockshout, clattering the brains out of itself. Let me see if I can doze off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What kind of flowers are those they invented, like the stars in the wallpaper in Lombard Street? Was much nicer, the apron he gave me. Was like that something, only I wore it only twice. Better lower this ramp and try again, so as I can get up early. I'll go to Lamb's there beside fine ladders and get them to send us some flowers to put in the place in case he brings us home tomorrow today. I mean, no, Friday's an unlucky day. First, I want to do the place up some way. The dust grows in it. I think while I'm asleep then we can have music and cigarettes. I can accompany him first. I must clean the keys of the piano with milk. What'll I wear? Shall I wear a white rose with some fairy cakes and Liptons? I love the smell of a rich big shop at 7.5d a pound. Or the other ones, with the nice cherries in them and the pinky sugar. I'd a couple of pounds of those nice plant for the middle of the table. I'd get that cheaper in weight. Where's this? I saw them not long ago. I love flowers. I'd love to have the whole place swimming in roses. God of heavens, there's nothing like the nature of wild mountains, then the sea and the waves rushing, then the beautiful country with the fields of oats and wheats and all kinds of things, and all the fine cattle going about that would do your heart good to see rivers and lakes and flowers, all sorts of shapes and smells and colors, springing up even out of the ditches. Primroses, violets, nature it is, for them saying there's no God. I wouldn't give a snap of my 2 fingers for all their learning. Why don't they go and create something, I often ask them atheists, or whatever they call themselves. Go and wash the cobbles off themselves. First, then they go howling for the priest, and they dying. And why? Why? Because they're afraid of hell on account of their bad conscience? Ah, yes, I know them well. Who was the first person in the universe, before there was anybody that made it all? Who? Ah, that they don't know, neither do I. So there you are. They might as well try to stop the sun from rising tomorrow. The sun shines for you, he said, the day we were lying among the rhododendrons, on Howth Head in the grey tweed suit, and his straw hat the day I got him to propose to me. Yes, first I gave him the bit of seed cake out of my mouth. It was a leap year, like now. Yes, 16 years ago. My God, after that long kiss I near lost my breath. Yes, he said, I was a flower of the mountain. Yes, so we are flowers, all a woman's body. Yes, that was one true thing he said in his life. And the sun shines for you today. Yes, that was why I liked him, because I saw he understood or felt what a woman is, and I knew I could always get around him, and I gave him all the pleasure I could, leading him on till he asked me to say yes. I wouldn't answer first, only looked out over the sea and in the sky. I was thinking of so many things. He didn't know of Mulvey and Mr. Stanhope and Hester and Father and old Captain Groves and the sailors playing, All Birds Fly, and I say, stoop and washing up dishes, they called it on the pier in the sentry in front of the governor's house, with the thing round his white helmet. poor devil half roasted, and the Spanish girls laughing in their shawls and their tall combs in the auctions in the morning, the Greeks and the Jews and the Arabs and the devil knows who else, from all ends of Europe, and Duke Street, and the foul market all clucking outside Larby Sharon's, and the poor donkeys slipping half asleep, and the vague fellows in the cloaks asleep in the shade on the steps, and the big wheels of the carts of the bulls in the old castle thousands of years old. Yes, and those handsome Moors all in whites and turbans like kings asking you to sit down in a little bit of a shop, and Rhonda with the old windows of the posadas, two glancing eyes, a lattice hid for her lover to kiss the iron, and the wine shops half open at night, and the castanets, and the night we missed the boat at Algeciras, the watchman going about serene with his lamp. And oh, that awful deep-down torrent! Oh, and the sea crimson sometimes like fire in the glorious sunsets, and the fig trees, and the Alameda gardens. Yes, and all the queer little streets, and the pink and blue and yellow houses, and the rose gardens, and the jessamine and geraniums and cactuses, and Gibraltar as a girl, where I was a flower in the mountain. Yes, when I put the rose in my hair like the Andalusian girls used, or shall I wear a red yes, and how he kissed me under the Moorish wall. And I thought well as him as another, and then I asked him with my eyes to ask again yes, and then he asked me, would I yes to say yes, my mountain flower? And first I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breasts all perfume, yes, and his heart was going like mad, and yes, I said yes, I will, yes. I'd a couple of pounds of those nice plant for the middle of the table. I'd get that cheaper in weight. Where's this? I saw them not long ago. I love flowers. I'd love to have the whole place swimming in roses. God of heavens, there's nothing like the nature of wild mountains, then the sea and the waves rushing, then the beautiful country with the fields of oats and wheats and all kinds of things, and all the fine cattle going about that would do your heart good to see rivers and lakes and flowers, all sorts of shapes and smells and colors, springing up even out of the ditches. Primroses, violets, nature it is, for them saying there's no God. I wouldn't give a snap of my two fingers for all their learning. Why don't they go and create something, I often ask them atheists, or whatever they call themselves. Go and wash the cobbles off themselves. First, then they go howling for the priest, and they dying. And why? Why? Because they're afraid of hell on account of their bad conscience? Ah, yes, I know them well. Who was the first person in the universe, before there was anybody that made it all? Who? Ah, that they don't know, neither do I. So there you are. They might as well try to stop the sun from rising tomorrow. The sun shines for you, he said, the day we were lying among the rhododendrons, on Howth Head in the grey tweed suit, and his straw hat the day I got him to propose to me. Yes, first I gave him the bit of seed cake out of my mouth. It was a leap year, like now. Yes, 16 years ago. My God, after that long kiss, I near lost my breath. Yes, he said, I was a flower of the mountain. Yes, so we are flowers, all a woman's body. Yes, that was one true thing he said in his life. And the sun shines for you today. Yes, that was why I liked him, because I saw he understood or felt what a woman is, and I knew I could always get around him, and I gave him all the pleasure I could, leading him on till he asked me to say yes. I wouldn't answer first, only looked out over the sea and in the sky. I was thinking of so many things. He didn't know of Mulvey and Mr. Stanhope and Hester and Father and old Captain Groves and the sailors playing, All Birds Fly, and I say, stoop and washing up dishes, they called it on the pier and the sentry in front of the governor's house, with the thing round his white helmet, poor devil half roasted, and the Spanish girls laughing in their shawls and their tall combs in the auctions in the morning, the Greeks and the Jews and the Arabs and the devil knows who else, from all ends of Europe, and Duke Street, and the foul market all clucking outside Larby Sharon's, and the poor donkeys slipping half asleep, and the vague fellows in the cloaks asleep in the shade on the steps, and the big wheels of the carts of the bulls in the old castle thousands of years old. Yes, and those handsome Moors all in whites and turbans like kings asking you to sit down in a little bit of a shop, and Rhonda with the old windows of the posadas, two glancing eyes, a lattice hid for her lover to kiss the iron, and the wine shops half open at night, and the castanets, and the night we missed the boat at Algeciras, the watchman going about serene with his lamp. And oh, that awful deep-down torrent! Oh, and the sea crimson sometimes like fire in the glorious sunsets, and the fig trees, and the Alameda gardens. Yes, and all the queer little streets, and the pink and blue and yellow houses, and the rose gardens, and the jessamine and geraniums and cactuses, and Gibraltar as a girl, where I was a flower in the mountain. Yes, when I put the rose in my hair like the Andalusian girls used, or shall I wear a red yes, and how he kissed me under the Moorish wall. And I thought well as him as another, and then I asked him with my eyes to ask again yes, And then he asked me, would I yes to say yes, my mountain flower? And first I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breasts all perfume, yes, and his heart was going like mad, and yes, I said yes, I will, yes.